During the time that Greece was ruling the world on the Balkan Peninsula, another great power was rising up next door on the Italian peninsula. Let's set the stage with the beautiful landscape that is our backdrop for the drama that is about to unfold.
Starting north with the Alps, the highest, most extensive mountain range that lies entirely in Europe, stretches 750 miles across 8 countries: France, Switzerland, Morocco, Italy, Liechtenstein, Austria, Germany, and Slovenia. Here we have Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in the Alps. It spans the French-Italian border. Dolomites are next. They are an unusual mountain range in northeastern Italy, making up the southern limestone Alps. They were named for the carbonate rocks, dolomite, named for the 18th century French mineralist who first described them. The 3 peaks of Lorado are part of the Sexton Dolomites. From east to west, the peaks are translated into Little Rock, Big Rock, and Western Peak. Here are the Apennine Mountains. They run for 750 miles down the Italian peninsula. And of course, we had to talk about the highest peak of the Apennines, the Gran Sasso d'Italia. Had to throw that in there. And Italy wouldn't be Italy without talking about Mount Vesuvius. And this is a picture of it over Pompeii. Switching now from land to sea and a bit of river too, we have a picture of the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is on the west coast of Italy. And on the east side is the Adriatic Sea. Here we have the Tiber River. It is the 3rd largest river in Italy. It starts in the Apennine Mountains, flows 252 miles down, joined by the Ani River, and dumps into the Tyrrhenian Sea. It is the main water source for Rome and is pictured here. In Umbria, Italy, at a total of 541 feet tall, is the Cascata della Marmore. It's the tallest man-made waterfall in the world. Construction started in 271 BC by the Romans to alleviate the wetlands of illness, which was probably malaria in that area. They decided to reroute the stagnant Velino River over the natural cliffs at Marmore nearby and into the Nerva River below.
Now that the scene is set, let's start with Act 1, the people. I don't have any other creative way to do it. I haven't done theater for a while now, so I thought I would get my lights out and try a little special effect. So anyway, now that you've seen a little bit of what the Italian peninsula looks like, let's talk about the people and Rome, which is what this chapter is about. Now, if you remember when we were talking about Greece last chapter, I had pointed out on the map that the Greeks had set out people to start colonies all around them, right? Well, some of the people, some of the relations of the Greeks went to the Italian peninsula, all right? And so that's where we're starting at. One group settled between the 7 hills near the Tiber River, which is the river that I showed you guys, on the Latium Plateau, okay? This group became known as the Latins because of, or the land became known as Latium because the people called themselves the Latins. Either way, this is where Rome was first founded or established in 753 BC, after all the individual little people groups came together to work the land better. Okay. When they got together, they formed a marketplace, somewhere where they could gather and talk about what was going on in each settlement and what needed to be done for protection. It was called the Forum. All right, and so at first it was a marketplace, and later on it became a place of their government buildings. And I have a picture of those, and plus the 7 hills, so you get a fix on where Rome sort of is. So let's go take a look.
Okay, so here we have a schematic map of Rome showing the 7 hills. Now, the first forum or marketplace was between the Palatine and the Capitoline hills. And after this, my sister had gone to Italy for her honeymoon and brought me back a picture of, they're still excavating the original forum. And this is a picture of that. Later on, though, they built better structures for their government buildings, and that's what these are. This is also of the forum, but later on when Rome was better established.
Okay, so as the city of Rome grew, then the Latins no longer were called the Latins, but became known as the Romans. Makes sense, okay? But not too far after this city was established, did the Etruscans come in around 800 BC. Now, it's debated where they're actually from. Some people think Lydia, but it's for sure somewhere in Asia Minor, around the Turkish area, perhaps, okay? But these people came in and they dominated Rome. They became Rome's first kings. They taught the Latins or the Romans how to write. They taught them how to do leather work and how to make weapons. They taught them how to make bridges. They taught this people group that they overcame lots of things. I have a picture of some pottery that the Etruscans were known for, and how and what they taught the Romans to do as well. And then I also have, they also started excavating marble, and so I have a picture of a marble quarry. That's, the stone is beautiful. They didn't use it during their 200 years of reigning, the Romans. The Romans really took hold of this marble and sculpting it later on, but this is where it first started from. So let's go take a look.
Like I said, the Etruscans taught the Romans many things, one of which was pottery. Now, Etruscan pottery was known for its rich black color and gloss. This was caused by the reduction method that happened during the firing process. What would happen is that they would close off all the oxygen, causing the O2 to be pulled from the iron oxide of the pottery. This process caused the natural clay to turn from red to black, and the gloss was caused by burnishing or polishing later on in the process. This is a drinking vessel used for wine. This is the Carrara quarry that I told you about, where they would get their marble from.
Okay, so not only were the Etruscans known for and useful for teaching the Romans many things, but they also developed two social classes, the upper and the lower class. The upper class was the patricians, which were in charge of the government and the religion of that time, and then the lower class was the plebeians, and those were everybody else. So at the same time that Rome was growing and the Etruscans were ruling and teaching and expanding, the Greeks were also still sending out colonies, okay? And so, as you guys probably read, they started colonies south of Rome, in southern Italy and in Sicily. And the Phoenicians, they decided to start colonies in North Africa. They started the city of Carthage, all right? That's going to be important in our drama as it keeps unfolding. We're still developing characters, we'll just say, okay? And so not only did the Phoenicians go to North Africa, but they also went over to the islands that were around the Italian peninsula. Moving on along, okay? The Carthaginians were getting wealthy and strong in their military power, and they were expanding, and they became Rome's greatest rival for that time. All right, so let's see what happens next. So the first part of Roman government was that they were ruled by kings, or a monarchy. And so the last three kings that it set up in your reading this week were Etruscan kings, okay? These kings had ultimate cosmic power, okay? So they were the head of the nation. They were the head of the state. They were the ruler of the people and the army. They were the chief judge and the high priest. They were everything all in a ball, okay? They were chosen by the popular assembly. the group that represented the patrician family groups. And the king had a body of 100 patrician elders, which was called the Senate. And this was the group that chose him and helped him make decisions, so to speak. All right. The king that we're going to talk about is Tarquin the Proud. Now, I have a picture of him on a coin that was fashioned back then. And so let's take a look at him, and then I'll tell you a little bit about this guy.
Okay, Tarquin the Proud. Okay, he's kind of a mouthful, but he is said to be the son or the grandson of the 5th king. And Tarquin then became the 7th king after he killed his wife and brother and the predecessor, the 6th king, King Sirius Tullius. His reign was described as a tyranny that justified the ending of the monarchy.
Okay, over here, recording over here. So the monarchy was not working. This is how it is to make a movie at home. The monarchy wasn't working, obviously, and so enter in the Roman Republic in 509 BC, thanks to a revolt from both classes of people. Now, not wanting to make the same mistake as they did with a king having total power, they had some sense, and the Republic divided the political power into 2 chief executives, known as councils. All this great idea was, of course, held by the patricians, which was great for them, but not so great for the plebeians, all right? They couldn't vote. They didn't have any weight at all. They were overtaxed. They were put on the lowest part of the military ranks. They could never rise out of their social standing. Boo for them. Okay, 200 years they put up with this nonsense when finally they just refused to fight in the military until their demands were met. So it was decided that they would establish their own assembly as part of the whole called the Concilium Plebis, which was the assembly for the plebeians, and their leader was the tribune. That instead of having a council, it was called a tribune. Okay, so finally they had public office, and they could veto anything that would be hurtful for their class of people. Okay, later they demanded that the laws would be posted, and it was called the 12 Tables. Before then, only the patricians knew what the laws were and changed the laws and rewrote the laws to their own benefit, and then the plebeians would get in trouble and didn't even know. So now they're like, we need to have the law so that we know what's going on. So, and those 12 tables, which were the laws, were put into the forum for everybody to see. Now, the next part of your book, you read about the Punic Wars. I thought it would be great to watch a video on that. So you can go to your email and watch the Punic War 1 and 2 through Drive Through History. There is a pop quiz, and not everybody's been doing them. That's part of your grade, you guys, okay? So you can take out a piece of paper. The questions that I'm asking you are what you're to look for and answer from the video. Some of you are doing it, good job. And the others of you are not. Try this one. It's chapter 8, and you've missed quite so many. So for the first video on the Punic War, the first one, the question I'm asking you for the pop quiz is, the Phoenicians were called what in Bible times when they were fighting against the Israelites? Okay, they talk about that. Well, who were the Phoenicians called in the Bible when they were fighting against the Israelites? Okay, and when you might as well just watch the second Punic War on Drive Through History. It's the second link I sent you, I think. The question that I want you to look for in that one is, at what age was Hannibal when he had his first battle? Okay, those are the 2 questions for your pop quiz. Go ahead and go to your email, watch those links, and then come back to me. Okay, so Carthage is in ruins, but can you even for a moment imagine what it must have been like to take elephants through the Alps? I mean, and that video just gives you a glimpse of it, but I thought about that and I thought, that was crazy. And no wonder Rome, was taken by surprise. Elephants through the Alps. That must have been crazy. Needless to say, though, Carthage was in ruins and got sacked nonetheless, and Rome ruled on high in the western part of the Mediterranean. Rome continued its campaign to expand its empire, and believe it or not, less than 400 years after it started as a republic in 509, by 133 BC, Rome had mastery over the Mediterranean world. They didn't start as wanting to be an empire, but that's just how it ended up being, as they just fought to keep their own land. As Rome increased in wealth and power, its fundamental character traits kind of went by the wayside. The few rich got richer, and the farmers and the workers got poorer. With excess amounts of slaves and grain pouring in from all the Roman conquests, the farmers were beginning to be out of work, and so they'd have to sell their property to, guess who? The rich patricians. And then they moved into the cities, into Rome and the other outlying cities, and there wasn't work for them there either, okay? By the first century, fewer than 2,000 men owned all of the land in Italy. These few were also in control of the government and the money, and the others, the staggeringly poor, were out of work people. The government thought that they could take care of the people by making them happy. That's where the bread and the circus idea came from, okay? Free food, welfare for the plebeians, for the farmers and the workers, and circuses to give them entertainment that was for free, okay? Watching the gladiators, the prisoners, the slaves, and the criminals forced to fight to the death. I found out some really interesting things about the Colosseum. My sister went there, like I said, for their honeymoon and took some pictures inside of there. And so let's take a look at that, and then I'll tell you what I learned about the Colosseum.
Okay, so during the bread and circuses period in Roman history, there were marketplaces or smaller colosseums set up for gladiators, usually prisoners of war, slaves, or criminals, to fight against each other till the death. Or they were to fight other animals. Now, the Great Colosseum that everybody knows about and is pictured everywhere in Rome was built during the Flavian Empire in 68 to 70 AD. It was started by Vespasian and finished by his son Titus. But the neat thing that I learned about that is they put on plays. And so you can see once we look inside of this, the floor, underneath the floor of the Colosseum were tunnels and different rooms where the slaves would be kept and the animals would be kept, but also their scenery. They had a floor that would rise up to the main level, and they would put on productions. They also would double cover the floor of the Colosseum and flood it with up to 6 feet of water to reenact battles at sea. They would bring in sized down ships to reenact those sea battles. Sometimes it was even said that they would fight whales. I don't even understand how they would do that, but they did all sorts of things besides having gladiators fight. These colosseums were used for many, many different kinds of entertainment, so they called it. Here you can see that floor. The wooden floor is obviously no good anymore, but you can see the aisles and the hallways underneath, but there was boards that would cover that up. And then they'd be able to flood it, or they would do whatever they needed to do for whatever production they were giving.
Oh my word, the Roman Empire is such a muddy mess. So, between 133 BC and 30 BC, the Roman world was just consumed with revolutions and civil wars. While on one hand, the common people demanded economic and political reform and social reform, the aristocrats, on the other hand, who controlled the Senate, didn't want anything to do with that because it would infringe on their control of the wealth and the power of Rome. Okay, so in this atmosphere of conflict, ambitious men strove for power. Some people came to power by appealing to the masses as well, we're going to be on your side and we're going to fight for you, okay? And then some, on the other hand, wanted to come to power by waging civil war, okay? So now enter in Tiberius Gracchus and his brother. Let's take a look at them and find out what they did in this situation.
So here we have a statue of Tiberius, who was best known for transferring land from Roman states, which was the wealthy landowners, to the poorer citizens by limiting the amount of land one person could own. As tribune, the powerful Senate and landowners caught on to what he was doing and had him and 3 of his followers beaten to death with clubs. After his death, Gaius became the next tribune, and he also tried to do some reforms to help the poor people, but riots broke out, started by, would you guess, the nobles. Gaius killed himself, and then 3,000 of his followers were murdered. The tribunes were ended, and so the power of Rome was passed on to the military leaders.
So, after the time of the tribunes ended, then it was just civil war upon civil war upon civil war upon civil war. So, what I would like you to do is to go to your email and you get to watch another YouTube link about Marius all the way to Caesar and get a glimpse into what those civil wars were like. Now, for your pop quiz, I have 2 more questions. While you're watching it, I want you to tell me, listen for, how many pounds of weight did Caesar's legion army have to carry on their back? How much weight did they have in their backpack? And the second one was, what was Caesar put in charge of? What part of Rome was Caesar in charge of? It was only a portion of it, and he looked at the rest of it and wanted all of it. So what was that area called? Okay, so go ahead and watch it and then come back. Okay, so Rome, land of the civil wars. Because here we go again. Okay, after Julius was stabbed to death in 44 BC, guess what? A 3rd civil war was in the making. Surprise, surprise. Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus joined together to rule Rome. Now, things started to go south when this union broke up, and you've already read about it, so I'm going to just cut to the end, where we find out Octavian wins and Mark Antony and Lepidus are dead. Seems to be a reoccurring thing here. But anyway, so who is Octavian? Well, he is better known as Caesar Augustus. Caesar meaning heir of distinguished Roman family, and Augustus meaning revered, which is pretty much a special title that they would give to their gods that they worshipped. All right, so Caesar Augustus. Now, he is best known for the Pax Romana, which means Roman peace, and it lasted for about 200 years. Another thing that he's known for is that he brought law and order to Rome. Okay, he extended the empire under his rule. He organized professional army. And he did massive building projects galore. Okay, roads and temples and aqueducts. All right, so he ruled for 16 years. And he accomplished very much. After his death, the Claudian emperors began. Now we're going to skip to the very end of the line of 4 of them and talk about Nero. He's the most well-known one there is. And so if you go to your email and you can watch the drive-through history clip on the legacy of Nero and how terrible it really was. Okay, so here's the next question for your pop quiz. Okay, what you're watching for in this video for your quiz is how many districts were consumed by the fire in Rome. Okay, there was 14 total districts, but how many of them were consumed by the fire during that rampage? Okay, so that's your question. When you hear the answer, write it down on your paper. Okay, so go ahead and watch it and then come back to me. All right, so Nero, he was a piece of work. That's the best I can say for him. But anyway, after his forced death came the Flavian emperors. And so Vespasian started it, but we're not really going to talk about him. I have a clip that I want you to watch about his two sons, Titus and Domitian. Okay, so during this next clip with the drive-through history, the question that I'm looking for was, what monument was made in honor of Titus for his destruction of Israel? What monument was made for Titus in his honor for destroying Israel? So when you hear that or you see that, then write it down. That's part of your pop quiz. So go ahead and watch the video about Titus in the drive-through history on your email and come right back. Okay, so after Domitian's death, the empire reached its highest prosperity and power under the next 5 rulers, known as the 5 good emperors. Okay, we're going to take a look at them in just a second and highlight what they were known for. But these 5 men were known to be devoted to civic duty, and most of their subjects respected them. So let's take a second and take a look.
Nerva was the first of the 5 emperors, and he is known for bringing back the power to the Senate. Trajan is next, and he is best known for extending the empire's frontier. Third is Hadrian. He is best known for his wall of protection in North Britain. Marcus was known to be a very great philosopher. And Antonius, also known for building a great wall north of Hadrian's. All of these men, except for Nerva, hated the Christians because they would not worship them as a god, or just because they made a law saying that being a Christian was against the law.
Okay, so at the end of the rule of the 5 good emperors, so also ended the 200 years of the Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, although it didn't really sound very peaceful, but that's what it's called in history anyway. The next 100 years was full of disaster and instability. It was so bad that the new ruling government was the Baric emperors, okay? And these emperors, some of them only served for a few months. They were incredibly hostile to each other, killing each other to be in control next. But the government was just so bad that the money that they were making to pay the people and for the people to pay back the taxes and to buy things with, the government wouldn't even take. They started taking the gold and the silver out of the coins, so the coins were worth pretty much nothing, and demanding their tax and their tributes, but the money wasn't worth anything. It was getting to a low pretty quickly. At one point, before this great fall, Rome was in charge of all this orangeness right here, okay? A huge area, even part of England or Britain, okay? But during the Barracks Empire, things were going bad, and so Rome became divided under the reform of Maximum, and then later on also Diocletian. Okay, so Maximum decided to take the western part, and Diocletian took the eastern part where Asia Minor is. And they decided Rome was just too big for one man to handle, and so they divided it into sections called prefectures, and then that got divided even smaller into dioceses, even smaller into provinces. In this system, there were 13 dioceses, which were, there's sections, and underneath that, 120 provinces, okay? They're trying to make it so they have better control. Well, after they retired, Constantine the First ruled next, okay? He is famous for finally coming up with the Edict of Milan, which says that there was equal rights for all religions. which was great. Constantine ruled jointly until he took full control and then reunited the empire under himself as the sole ruler. So we had a break, which sounded like a great idea, and then Constantine's like, I got it. I'll just control it all. So he started a new capital in Greece. So the capital was here in Rome, and then he moved it over here in Constantinople. Imagine that, okay? In Greece, it was the city of Byzantium, or now it's Istanbul in Turkey, okay? But the city was renamed from Byzantium to Constantinople in honor of its ruler. Now, the Eastern Roman Empire did really great under their rule and became known as the Byzantine Empire. Hint, 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 that will be coming up in the next few chapters, okay? While this side started to decline pretty quickly. All right, hold on a second as I give you a picture of the next ruler.
All right, so enter in Theodosius the First. He knew that the empire was just too vast for one person, and it was obvious. So he permanently divided the empire, Western and Eastern, and divided it between his two sons. The Eastern Roman Empire continued to thrive and do well. Byzantine Empire was what it stayed as, but the West had even more problems to come.
Okay, so those problems that were to come for Western Rome came in the form of the Asian Huns. Not good. So the Germanic people that were in North Italy were getting slaughtered right and left by the Asian Huns. And so the group called the Visigoths feared the same fate for their people and begged Rome for them to come into their protection, into their walled areas, and be under the Roman legion's protection. So Rome said yes, but and they took the Visigoths into their military and trained them. But the Romans used and abused these people's groups, and it finally came to a point when the Visigoths went on a rampage. So let's watch and see what possibly became of that situation with their leader, whose name is Alaric. Okay, so here's your next question for your pop quiz. Is it true or false? Is it true or false that Alaric went to Rome and gave the Romans a gift of 300 slaves? That's what you're looking for. Go ahead and go to your email and watch the link about Alaric. Well, seeing how the Goths could raid and destroy Rome, others came as well. The Vandals hit North Africa. The Angles, the Saxons, and the Juts invaded Britain. Attila the Hun, very famous, well-known person, attacked Rome also. But with Attila, the Visigoths and the Romans fought together to fight Attila the Hun back all the way to France, okay? The Germanic chieftains, thanks to Alaric's first fight, now ran the Roman army. And in AD 476, Odoacer forced the last Roman emperor to surrender his crown, ending the Roman Empire as we know it. You guys have done great. This ends chapter 8. Make sure you send in your homework to me by tomorrow, no later than noon o'clock. Great job, you guys. I'll see you next week for chapter 9.
Meet us again for history. Same ham time, same ham channel. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.